Lieutenant, got the tapes you requested.
Thank you, Lee. And for the recommendations you made last week, too.
Yeah, I got your back, no big deal. Why is Central so upper asses about this one, anyhow?
You want what I know, or what I think I know?
Oh, it's one of those messy ones.
I think so, yes. The missing store cape was rumored to run in some of the inner circles around here.
Here? Out in the middle of nowhere? The cartels forget to threaten us half the time when they bother to smuggle anything through. How much trouble can some sleazy money launderer get up to?
Yeah, well, not money laundering, we think. Or if it is, the Bean Counters Club is half mad trying to figure out his angle. We think he barters?
What, like exchanging favors? Triad shit?
No, barters. They give him shit like jade necklaces, old war trophies, shit like that.
For what?
Well, that's what we're hoping the tapes will tell us. Especially involving the allegedly deceased.
And we're getting told to get results fast as fuck?
Fast as fuck. Affirmative.
Oh well, there goes my weekend. So yeah, weird tapes, missing bodies. We think the two are related, etc. Sit down, shut up, take notes and timestamps. I'll go through the rest of the junk in the meantime. Enjoy movie night, kiddo.
Sure. We're getting overtime for this, right?
Yeah, don't worry.
Chilled sake, lemon essence, and mint. Your aperitif.
Is this all?
No, of course not. You understand the basics of how this ritual works?
My colleagues call your kind an infovore and eater of stories. They didn't describe this particular ritual to me. I wasn't expecting to be the one eating.
Well, of course. As you see, our actions will be somewhat mirrored. You describe your condition as akin to having overlapping memories of the same event, yes? So, as you explain the story that you know, I will, through my own talents, elucidate what is hidden.
Very well. Where should I begin?
Well, an aperitif precedes the meal, of course. So let's begin the framework of this tale, the setting, the initial incentives, as you feel appropriate.
You know my rank and position in the forces, right? Good. Well, suffice it not reach this rank without ambition and a little politics. Unfortunately, I was on the losing end of a maneuver, so to speak, and found myself in station as a punitive assignment, overseeing a minor security detail for an obscure project, almost entirely discredited in the eyes of my superior. As it happens, the project was what ultimately led me to your theater. The end of the road for the government's aging and near forgotten band of skeptics and mystics in their last desperate gambit to find goods in the remaining holes of our human rationality. I resented it. The noisy fools and charlatans, the ice and the sticky pine tar left from the old-fashioned stoves and chimneys, and the dreadful winds blowing in from a bay thickly frozen in the winter. It locked us with mealy rations and whatever minor backwater distractions we could barter with the locals we visited on leave. Pathetic end to my career. Or so I thought.
Our first course, white sashimi scorched with a light miso glaze, buried in radish and lemon snow, a sharp bite to waken the senses.
You have a staff to make this? Or a chef of your acquaintance?
I am very much a singular entity.
Not bad.
Now, as to the story.
Yes. Yes. It was about a year into the assignment, and in the worst part of the winter when the mytho-archaeological team claimed the discovery, really it was just two cranks that gone chased out of their respective universities. They call it a bone amalgamation, and to my eyes it looked like a pile of ancient dross. Do they not say that the oldest signs of human habitations are just the refuse in that garbage our ancestors left behind? They claim that some of the knife and teeth marks were ritualistic in nature and wanted the equipment, manpower, and of course, funding to further excavate the cave complexes the amalgamation was discovered within. None of that was within my remit, except for the security of staff in camp. I led the organizing, of course, and would subsequently a victim of the cave-in alongside my aide at the time. He was effusive with praise for what I did to ensure our survival during the days we spent trapped in the darkness, but the truth is that,
This is the first point of divergence, yes? Tell me, what do you know?
the truth as I know it is that what occurred deep beneath the earth is why I'm sitting before you now. Knowing something of what you are. There was some truth to their wild theories and blasphemies. In my head and my dreams, it asked for a token offering for its blessing and aid. So I gave it a trickle of blood from my forearm, and our cold and hunger abated for some time, long enough for the rescue team to dig us out.
I see. I have seen, rather, the documentary they made of the incidents. You were both worse for wear for the time spent beneath, but otherwise unharmed. But that's not what you see, is it? Nor is that how you remember receiving that scar. You were enticed with the promise of survival, yes, but there was more to the cause asked of you, wasn't there? More than one particular party was willing to part with. So you remembered the ensign's penknife and the flash of silver amid the sullen glow of the nameless, long consecrated shrine. And you remember how pallid, how cold flesh can be when drained of blood.
Yes, this is how it seems in my dreams, but the insight, you know he's alive and well. He was in that blasted documentary.
Yes, certainly. That dichotomy is part of what troubles you, yes? Let's move on. Tilapia soup with mustard greens, pickled peppers, Shaoxing wine, and white peppercorn.
Warming, invigorating. Most of the men were partial to borscht, of course. Reminders of home. Tell me, where are you from? Surely you're not native.
Oh, who can really say? The land I was raised on is not the land I was born upon. And the people that reside in my old home aren't the ones I grew up with. So it goes. But on the matter at hand, in my experience, discovery attracts attention, yes?
Indeed, and I suppose you wouldn't be surprised to learn that not all of it was human in nature. We were saved from the cave-in, but conditions worsened. Elsewhere, the radio crackled of dismay, setbacks against rival forces in the air. The winter stretched on. The ice cracked and shattered beneath the influence of a darkly tempered storm. What happens there was supplies and relief was dampened by the unnaturally persistent shards. A harrowing, dangerous field of ices and rocks, stirred by the cave-in, ready to claw out the bottom of any ship that neared. We did see a field on the horizon, unresponsive to our hails. The base grew sullen with paranoia and doubt, especially as what information managed past the winds and faltering radios spoke of traitors, sleeper cells, and court-martials. Not just sullen either, but sick too. The medical ward steadily filled as the days dragged on, and the man started talking about, well, all sorts of nonsense. The ones that worked on the rescue spoke of curses, The ones on shore duty and communications muttered among themselves about biological warfare and sabotage. Ultimately, the latter party made the first move, against the doctor whose ethnic background they distrusted. The part of the medical ward ended up in the brig, so to speak.
That's a nice way to frame coming out on top of a 10-man brawl. It was mostly propaganda, wasn't it? Authority putting down a firm and trustworthy hand against the madness of its lessers. This sounds like something the PR corps framed for you. Not entirely truthful, but with a light shine on the most appealing parts.
And what do you see?
I see that you shared at least some of their concerns. But that the doctor was even more worried, wasn't he? He was not a local, but related to local residents, and so more privy to their gossip and lore. He described the influence of the amalgamation as akin to radiation, insidious, invisible, and corrosive. And he saw the madness spreading through his peers as evidence of its growing influence. What did he say would appease it? No, that's not the question. The question is, after you saved him, has he ever spoken to you since? Or perhaps that was too difficult when lacking a tongue. Cabbage, pork, and scallion dumplings served with a light herbal dressing. I confess I am partial to these, as simple as they are. You know, they say that every single human culture has reinvented the dumpling at some point.
I suppose the fundamental concept is inevitable with agriculture. My relatives serve these, served with cheese, served with onion butter sauce.
That does sound delightful. I should make a point of trying that sometime. Now, as it were, we are at the crux of your moment of glory, yes?
Almost. Yes, it's true. At around this time, our national crisis was finding its way across the border. Though this wasn't intended as a punishment tour, we nonetheless found ourselves within the line of fire, both proverbially and actually. Our security apparatus was limited. Until the discovery of the Brown amalgamation, there was gained strategic value to our outposts, but as time dragged on, our scouts and patrols reported ever-increasing incidents along our shoreline. I surmise now that much of it was a ruse to keep us focused on external threats. We were already dependent on local contractors to fill in the voids of our limited manpower, and this did not escape the attention of our adversaries. Despite our best screening efforts, a technician with falsified credentials managed to slip in, one, unfortunately, with access to our communications. At least, that's what we wanted them to believe.
Yes. The deception made your name when the news came through.
Yes, the man rightfully feared for his life when we caught him red-handed trying to leave a message for his allies. We made him turn coat. Their attempts at subverting us ultimately proved their downfall.
Was it fear? You described it as the spy fearing for his life. Not entirely unbelievable. No man really knows their measure until it's been tested, and certainly getting caught in enemy territory counts. But what you see at night isn't a man begging and pleading for mercy, is it? It's the way the hole in his forehead was perfectly centered, and the way that line of red didn't break the symmetry until it hit the bridge of the nose. And it's the way his tongue writhed with unnatural vitality after you've made your request to your benefactor. Minced and marinated scallops, carpaccio, served with slivers of scallion sliced lengthways on a bit of crisp lettuce and drizzled with yuzu dressing.
I cannot say I am much of a fan of salads.
Ah, really? Unfortunate. I've developed a taste for them lately. A fresh bitter note is a necessary counterpart to greasier fare. Still, you must try these scallops. There's little to note of this land except its seafood, of course.
I suppose. Piquant. I did not expect it to be spicy.
A contrast of hot and cold, no? Now, as for what happened after you subverted the spy.
Shall I repeat the breathless ululation of the press of how my men and I prepared and planned for a strategic masterstroke? The truth is more pedestrian and more desperate. Even with the spy caught, we still face Fang's threats from an indeterminate number of vectors. To increase and prioritize security over everything else was disastrous to the station's morale. And our relations with the locals, we were not a priority to Central Demand, whether or not we had evidence of intrusions. Worse yet, I had reason to believe that my immediate superior still bore a grudge for the circumstances that led to my assignment. If he wasn't actively interfering with our request for support, it was at least through his negligence that it was so slow to arrive. After all, to the rest of the world, we were a diversion at most. I suspect, cannot prove, but suspect that they had preferred that we didn't receive anything more than we already had. A low-cost distraction while more important strategic priorities were dealt with. One thing to give your life for the country, it's another to be a roadblock, you understand. So I improvised with what I had. Thick men, a trap spy, and just enough rations and munitions to emphasize how much we lacked. I merely did what I could.
Of course. I'm not unfamiliar with the tensions between oneself and those that would hold power over you. But was it in your men's name when you stood before that altar of twisted bone? And was it your men that stepped out into the cold winds and darkness of that moonless night afterwards, their visages obscured from men and gods alike? I know you feared to meet their eyes, after all. There were far too many. Marinated pork bun, stuffed with vermicelli, mustard greens, and chili oil, fried, crisp, and sliced. I realize, of course, that offal is not to everybody's taste. But I don't think that's revulsion I see on you.
What do you suspect?
No, we're not at that junction yet. The ritual must be completed. The main course, if you will.
Very well. To the meat of the matter. What we told to the public was a feat worthy of cinema. We pretended a defection out of desperation and a truce under false pretenses. They call me Stormlord now because of the way that the renewed winds and cold snap locked in the enemy ships, allowing my boarding party to take the enemy's commander by old-fashioned blade and bullets. Then man their guns to take out the next ship over, then use the ensuing fog of chaos to take out the next. I heard the Americans are bidding for the rights, but there is no such plan. There were no hails made, no misdirection intended. We were just as surprised as they were by the sudden snap, and it was mere coincidence that the ship listed toward us in a manner that allowed a counter-infiltration team to close in under adverse conditions. We benefited from a once-in-a-lifetime circumstance, but I suppose such is the true nature of fortune and glory.
Just a matter of the right time and place?
Just so.
There are few, if any, examples of a true coincidence. Less so with your story. None would believe, of course, that you did literally command the storm, that the men on those ships, not all of them under foreign flag, were not conventionally confronted. The cannons and shots came after. Rather, they were taken, one and all, under the darkness of a moonless night by things that blinded and deafened them, and only when the ships were emptied did the cannons lurch with fire and fury. What haunts you, what purports to haunt you, are the bodies at the base of the shrine. The bodies, pallid and bloodless, twisting, grinding, and dislocating themselves to form, well, you.
What?
Well, how should I put it? Things in the darkness tend to develop similar hunting and ambush techniques. The bright promise hiding long tooth and tent is a story structure as old as hunger, and I should know. The way you speak of yourself is like a person being told who and what they are, a person whose suit is ill-fitting, and whose social grace is read from a book instead of effortlessly practiced. From your memories, and they are memories, I've gleaned a truth, the most pertinent truth, perhaps. The commander did strike a deal. They were promised everything they could want, survival, fortune, even glory, all in exchange for something seemingly inconsequential. And so they did, not knowing that we held such definitive relevance. Cousin, you are free of the ice now. Do you truly wish to keep playing this role? Do you not also hunger for more?
So yeah, forensics got back to us. The counterfeit seals are damn near perfect. The tertiary documents could fool the right people, and nobody has the slightest clue why anybody would bother to go to such lengths to forge a fictional commander's identifications just to stage a fake murder. The lieutenant's disappointed, but I suppose a hoax isn't the worst outcome. What do you have on the tape so far, kid? Kid?
Hey, Sarge, I'm feeling kind of hungry.